Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. Hope you're all doing well and enjoying your day so far. The Pro-Am Classic is over. New York Subliners have been crowned champions, but so much reaction to this over the past 12 hours or so. Methodz initially implying this tournament simply does not count. Very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I would greatly appreciate it. Really upset the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. Crimsix and the guys, they had big plans going into the championship Sunday. They were most certainly realised criminal than on championship. We'll talk about kind of the legitimacy of this in a few minutes time here, because certainly there's been, to me, a surprising amount of controversy about this, but yeah, we'll certainly get into it. Of course, they do win it. Impressive stuff really from Crim in a way. The fact that not only does he come back to win another championship, but he's also bringing Hydra, Kismet, and Paulx to all their first championships in a way. Like Hydra, I mean, all these guys, I'm happy for them to get one on the board here, but like Hydra especially, because there's been some talk, I think TacticalRab Academy even points out, might look at it tomorrow or at the end of the video, that Hydra might well have been the best player in the world not to have yet won a championship in his career. Now, well, I wonder kind of who that falls on after this one. You could well argue, but yeah, incredible result, there's no doubt about it, this weekend, to see them come in and win the entire thing. This I thought was great to hear from Paulx as well. GG's Thieves, because of course it was Mother's Day yesterday in the US. Kind of weird to me, in the UK Mother's Day is like in March, and in the US it's in May. Not really sure what's going on there, but it always confuses me every single year, to be honest. But I mean, yeah, so well, Mother's Day yesterday in the US at the very least, maybe other countries as well. And this is the word from Paulx's mother, kind of before the grand finals: don't let the Thieves rob you guys of this stuff. Play smart, keep your composure, use good team comms, and then congrats on this stuff. I'm gonna win it for you, says. So I thought that was really awesome to see, to be honest. This also to mention, because well, from an able right here, Aches wasn't too happy that he stole this kind of take from him on the flank, but you've got to tip Kismet's finesse levels, convince Havok not to go to New York, just so he could slide in there and cop to W. So that was the thing, when Havok wanted to come to New York, or at least when there was initial discussions going on, they wanted to get rid of Neptune. Pretty sure Havok basically said he wants to bring Kismet along with him instead of Hydra, which are probably not going to work, because I mean, you're not going to get rid of Hydra, there's no doubt about it. So effectively, Havok decides, okay, not really sure I want to go for this New York option, ends up going to Minnesota Rokkr instead, and that team, well, flopped pretty hard this weekend, you can't deny. Was Kismet having, you know, if anything, kind of said, yeah, maybe Havok, you don't want to go there, let's just keep our team together, get some options on the table. Kismet now takes the opportunity when it arises, and then wins the first event he plays with this new team. It's kind of incredible how that one worked out, but yeah, we'll see if Minnesota can turn things around. They might be one of those teams that still need further moves if they actually want to make this team competitive. They are confident that Havok can kind of be that guy for them, but they didn't really seem to hit anywhere near the same chemistry levels as New York managed this tournament, which I was very impressed with initially, no doubt. And it seemed like one player really coming into that system that brought the pressure, that brought the communication, brought the composure that Neptune seemingly didn't have, as it well made that core three very impactful, right? And that's the thing, it doesn't seem to me like this season was Clayster's fault. It just doesn't help Neptune's stock at all. Neptune's stock has been in the bin the last few weeks anyway, with what Crim has had to say, and especially so that they come in the event with a one-man change in. Neptune's got Kismet's in, and they win it. Neptune's stock is absolutely in the bin, right? And even before the tourney, there was some banter and some kind of drama between Paulx and Neptune, when Neptune said they're not watching VOD. Paulx is like, yeah, just got double watch involved with you as always, and then of course they win the tourney. So just remarkable scenes, but yeah, not a good sign for Neptune really, given that the circumstances that have transpired these past several weeks. This I thought was also incredible, right? Because there's been some talk this year, previous years as well, like the older generation, they're on their way out, they're going to have to retire soon. Clay's going to have to retire, Scump and Crimsix, they're going to go this season or the next, and that's going to be it. And then, you know, the younger generation coming through, FaZe and the like. Now, if you look at this actually, the oldest players in the league look as follows: John, Silly, and then the oldest three players in the league, Scump right here, 26.8, almost 27, Slashes went into his 27, and Crimsix is almost 29. Of course, like Clayster would be the oldest now, is just over 30, but is not on a starting team, so not included here. But all three of these guys, Scump, Slasher, and Crim, have all won events so far this season. That's quite remarkable, you've got to say. And I think it does create a great picture of the future of the game, because I think maybe the kind of age thing is, well, overgassed. Some have certainly been arguing that, like, the age thing maybe isn't as relevant as people have thought it was, and maybe it is just more about, like, you know, kind of dedication, commitment, like willingness to actually be the best and still compete at this very high level, and put in all the time that takes to go along with it. That's what probably counts a lot more than actually how old you are, right, and falling off as you get older, because Scump is still probably, I would say, a top 5 player in the game, certainly one of the most impactful players in the game. Slasher played great at the major suit that they won, and Crimsix this weekend was a monster, right? So it doesn't seem like these guys have fallen off. I think Clayster hopefully is seeing this as well, thinking, look, I had a hard time on New York at the start of the year, but I've still got it in me to be a top player in the game. And it's great to see really that the longevity is there for some of these guys, and hopefully they can carry this on for much longer indeed. Like, I don't know how many years Scump has left in it, but it could be very many more. And the same with these other guys, right? Even as Slasher says, with Crim winning, I believe that means the oldest 3 starters in the league have now all won an event. Maybe the 18 and cracked meter is overrated. Is it actually a good idea for some of these teams to go out and get these kind of young up-and-coming players that they hope are the next Simp? Or is there still a very good place in the league for guys like Accuracy, Clayster? Of course, we can talk about Seattle maybe in the coming days, because they didn't have the greatest time this weekend. This also I thought was kind of interesting from TDL Scrim Intel, that Huke, Shotzi, Hicksy, Illy, and Crimsix, all of the Dallas Empire squad from the start of Black Ops Cold War have now gone on to win an event this season, right? Kind of crazy. Shots in Illy, of course, an Optic, Huke on Los Angeles Guerrillas, and now Crimsix now as well. Remarkable scenes, there's no doubt about it. Crim was having a good time last night. I mean, this is just a phenomenal clip they came out. The interviews just honestly never cease to amaze. I do hope that they actually will have a look at it in a few minutes' time here. They have a very hard run for their Major 3 qualifiers, and they only have 40 points right now in the league, and that's kind of one of the big arguments why this event shouldn't count. It's because, well, it didn't count for CDL points. Not really sure that's a valid argument we'll dive into here in a second, but because it didn't, SLAMS didn't get to put any more CDL points up on the board this event. Basically, the reason why I guess they didn't do that is because there's amateur teams here, and you can't really give amateur teams CDL points because they're not in the ladder itself, so a bit of a strange one. But of course, they don't have any CDL points from this event, which means they're still on 40, 11th in the league, and they have a pretty hard run to Major 3, so they've got to continue this form if they actually want to make the World Championship. Would be kind of crazy if they win this and don't make champs, but you know, we'll see how it goes. It's still very much a possibility in fairness, because Vanguard does seem to be one of these games that one weekend is very much different to the next. Envoy and the Los Angeles Thieves guys, they were frustrated with their defeat. They almost got over the line, right? It would have been cool for Envoy to get back on top. He says he's incredibly sad about this one, and even as Octane says, man, I really got second to FaZe today. What an L. I really thought that Kenny and Octane kind of this duo just after Slasher from that 100 Thieves team back in Black Ops 4, like after Slasher got over the line, I thought maybe it was time for Kenny and Octane to do the same thing and break their drought. Doesn't happen in the end. They come second, of course, and none other than Crimsix, and as Octane says, damn close one. GG to New York, lost in the grand finals. Proud of the squad for the improvement nonetheless. Major 3 qualifiers up next. They certainly seem to turn a corner. Their search and destroy, their clutch factor, still a bit of a question mark to me, but their respawn looked a lot better this weekend, and Octane and all the guys looked way more comfortable in their role. So this might be the key to turning this team around, but well, as Octane says, Los Angeles East versus New York, the final that everyone predicted. That is the thing, of course. Some surprising results here, the way this tournament progressed, but in fairness, with single elimination in general, and if you think about it, most sports are single elimination. Like, there's not many, it's really only esports that do double elimination, to be honest, and it's only because they can, because of, like, it doesn't take a toll on you playing a many series in a row as much as real sports do, and of course, double elimination is going to give you more consistent results. If FaZe drop down to losers, they're probably going to make a bit of a run, like you're going to get kind of more realistic, more expected placings, but upsets and surprise results like these happen all across the park in regular sports as well. A bit more discussion on that here in a second. This also from Crimsix though. Huge shout out to Paulx and Kismet for saving both Paco and I for the depths of hell and getting us back on track. Paul transformed our aggression and teamwork. Kismet transformed our comms and discipline. Really lucky to play next to these guys. So I thought some really nice words here from Crimsix, just kind of showing what these guys have brought to the team and maybe what London are missing out of not keeping Paulx onto their roster when maybe they had the chance to do so. We've come an awful long way from you calling me old man over and over and over again, the Crim records, when Kismet first joined into the lineup. But here we go then. So as Crim says, I think last night I said maybe 37 wins. Crimsix counts them as 38. I mean, this stat is pretty insane anyway. 50 grand finals, 38 event victories. The reason why the wins is a bit of a question mark was because, well, basically the only win that's a bit of a question mark to most people's understanding, and even Ake says like the Crown Melbourne Invitational back in Black Ops 3, can't really argue that one. It was a LAN event, but there was only like Optic there, Millennium there. Like, there were not really particularly any good teams there. Like Millennium Mindfreak, that was pretty much it at that event because they were like the North American champions Optic. Therefore, they got invited out to this Crown Melbourne Invitational where they played the champions from the other regions. Like, that was pretty much it. So that event is a bit of a question mark as well. But also the Frag Cup 4, I believe it was, from back in Black Ops 2. That was an online tournament. But at the time, it was considered to be like a really big deal. All the pro teams are playing in it. Like, it was a massive online tournament. Machinima, I think, put it on, and Complexity won that at the time. And that was considered a big victory. So Crim counts that one, even though some people say you probably shouldn't count it. There's certainly some events among these victories that like all the teams and all the players count from Call of Duty past that, you know, looking back on it with today's standards, you might say, okay, is that really legitimate? Then again, though, you look at the Modern Warfare season, you've got all these home series where there's 8 teams going on online and people are counting those as victories. And if that's the case, then this one certainly counts. So this is what Methodz has to say last night. Mickey Mouse, he said, straight after the tournament was won. Of course, this has kind of been the thing about the World Championship ring that Crimsix and Co won, the online one back in Modern Warfare. It's a Mickey Mouse ring, doesn't really count. All these like Valorant tournaments that go on that aren't like official Valorant kind of Riot organized events, like they're called Mickey Mouse tourneys, or they're kind of colloquially known as among the pros. Now Methodz went on to delete this, right? Maybe in part just because I'm sure he wants to count the kind of Toronto home series that he won. You guys might remember he clutched a 1 versus 2 in the game 5, I think it was against FaZe back in Modern Warfare, right, to beat them in that grand finals. That was of course an online home series. Toronto won it. There were only 8 teams in attendance. I'm sure he probably wants to count that one as a victory. And of course, if you count that one, then you most certainly have to count this one, right? So from my perspective, it certainly counts towards the records. Thought it was quite interesting actually, the stats right here. So like yes gets about 40%, yes with an asterisk, and no a little bit more. I do of course wonder how different this would be in Optic to one. I'm sure it would have been different to some degree, but there's a few different ways you can look at this, right? From my perspective, it certainly counts towards the record, right? Like Crim's series of, you know, grand finals or victories or whatever, it certainly counts towards that. It's a LAN event. There's $250,000 on the line. Every team is there. Now, I think the big criticisms people have are the format. It was single elimination, which is true. Single elim is not as good as double elim, but in fairness, there were many events in the past, like Call of Duty. I was even talking about Black Ops 3, Stage 1 playoffs, Stage 2 playoffs. They were both single elimination events. They certainly count. Yes, they were best of sevens, but it was still a single elimination tournament. And of course, this tourney I think was even better just because it had group play as well. There was group play and single elim. It was like the Kickoff Classic to me is very much borderline because the Kickoff Classic was right at the start of the year, like when Control had been a game mode for like 1 week. The seeding was done very arbitrarily based on performances last season, even with completely new teams. But this event is in the middle of the season. There's been plenty of time to prepare and everything for this one. Like, it's on land. There's a lot of money on the line. To me, it absolutely has to count. So it doesn't count as much as a major. It's not as important as a major or a world championship, but it's certainly not too far behind. It's certainly comparable to some previous kind of, well, years where we've had a major MLG or CWL events, but then you've also had events put on by other tournament organizers that certainly also count towards the records. Like, and that's the thing. This event didn't count towards CDL points, which is why some people might say it shouldn't count. But if you look back at many previous years, there's been official MLG CWL events, but then there's been a Gfinity or there's been a UMG or another tournament organizer that puts on an event with all the teams and a load of money on the line on LAN as well, and that's most certainly going to count. The other argument was that, okay, well, Optic didn't have their full team, but that's just sports at the end of the day. So to me, like, there are some understandable criticisms. It definitely doesn't mean as much as a major. It's not quite as important as that. But personally, I don't think that qualifies to give it an asterisk. I think it's still in the yes category. That's my perspective. Like, yeah, I'm kind of surprised, honestly, that no has much of a high percentage as it does. Like, especially because people, for some reason, count these Modern Warfare home series. If we're going to count those, like, I mean, even the home series on LAN are bad enough to count because there are only 8 teams there. Like, I mean, you can count them, don't get me wrong, but like, you know, if you're going to count the online ones and those ones, then this one is like, well, 3 times more meaningful than those like online Modern Warfare home series. That's at least my perspective. Intrigued to your opinion in the comment section below. Of course, you are going to get some, you know, crazy results and upsets and crazy runs like this when you are having a single elimination tournament. That is the nature of the beast. But this now is Crimsix's record across all the games. I mean, honestly, the run from Black Ops 2 through to Advanced Warfare is absurd. In fairness, in Advanced Warfare, there were so many events going on. But again, these are his rings. These are his championship victories. In World War II and Cold War, both he made grand finals. Could have won both of those series that he made the grand finals in there. Black Ops 4 won, of course, Vegas. Modern Warfare won a fair bit as well. Some of it was online, of course. And then Vanguard gets another one on the board. So pretty much like just an unbelievable record throughout his career. But just wanted to look at the final thing before we finish out the video here. This is the record, or this is the schedule that subliners have going into the Major 3 qualifiers. This begins later on this week. Their first game is against FaZe. Then they play Boston. So FaZe, Boston, Toronto, Optic. Of course, they did beat Toronto at this event, but that was a very close fought affair. Like Optic, FaZe, Boston. I mean, the only relatively easier game they have is against Paris. They did beat Paris and Toronto both at this tourney, but like, it's not going to be easy for subliners at all to get a good kind of run here, and they're certainly going to need it to put the CDL points on the board that they need to if they want to qualify for champs. But very much intrigued to your thoughts in the comment section below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, hit on the like button. Tell us YouTube gods, this is a good video. I'd just like you to see it as well, and hope grow the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always. Take care of yourselves, and I will see you next time.
Is there anything that you want to say to the COD community at mass? The floor is yours, my friend.
Yeah, one thing, right? Listen, where am I looking here? It's Mother's Day, all right? Call your moms, all right? And maybe I'll call them too.
Well, congratulations on the victory. Go enjoy it. We'll talk to you later, Crim.